Welcome back, Irish fans, to Breaking Down Gray's Boys podcast. Today, we're previewing Miami. It's been a week since Notre Dame's played after finally they pulled off a win after a four-game losing streak. Miami has played since then, and we'll talk about that later. But I brought on Mr. Christopher Stock, owner of Inside the U, covering the Miami Hurricanes since 2003. So thank you for coming on.
Hey, Joey, thanks for having me. I'm definitely looking forward to talking about the game here.
For sure. So I guess we'll start out. I was telling you this before you came on, but this is definitely the second most important Zoom call you've been in today, behind the presser with Jim Larinaga and a couple of the players. So did any of them have anything to say about the game that was noteworthy that you can tell us about? Or I know they've had a bunch of injury issues with Chris Likes and Cam Auguste, but I think he's back. So can you tell us about if there was anything noteworthy?
Yeah, definitely. So the press conference started off by asking, Miami has a bunch of seniors, and obviously, with the NCAA rule that everybody can come back. So basically, Larinaga went through 8 players just from the jump of who will return next season. So that was the big news. Will they come back? A lot of seniors, not just seniors, but fifth-year guys. But as far as the game goes, definitely newsworthy that Jim Larinaga did rule out Chris Likes for returning against Notre Dame. This will be the 12th game he's missed with a left ankle injury. And earlier this week, it was interesting that Larinaga said that, look, they called it a sprained ankle. It was one of those plays where it's a three-point shot, lands on the defender foot. I think most people expected that he would be back way sooner than now. It's been 7 weeks and no return in sight. And the thing with Likes, and he was our leading scored the last 2 years, and their team has really taken a hit. And the big thing with him out, not just his scoring, but his three-point shooting, everything that he brings to the table. And the big thing, the reason why he's not playing is, and Larinaga actually used the term mind-boggling, is because his Likes is actually still dealing with pain when he walks. So not a good sign for him, not a good sign moving forward. Cameron McGusty dealt with a hamstring injury, missed 4 games, then played a game, missed about 3 or 4 more, and then he did return last game. So they are expecting him to return. And McGusty did talk about that. So he said he's definitely going to play. And he played 20 minutes last game. When he's clicking and everything's going right with him, he's a 30-minute guy. So I think that they'll still keep him closer to that 20-minute range against Notre Dame.
For sure. I actually didn't know that Chris Lakes got ruled out before you said that. So good that you told us all that. I thought he was going to come back sooner too. Every game I was kind of looking, is he going to come back tonight? And then Notre Dame's kind of screwed once he comes back, but I guess not. And Notre Dame will be a little bit easier off for it. But without Likes, can you kind of tell us about each member of the starting 5? I know a lot of schools at this point in the year have ran like 5. So just tell us about kind of like the main guys, main 5.
Well, it definitely starts with, I mentioned McGusty, and I really like him. And based on some of the analytics, that when he's on the court, Miami has their most efficient offense and defensive lineups when he's out there. So if he's only giving you 20 minutes, that's a good sign for Notre Dame. But so we'll just watch for that. And McGusty's a guy that can hit threes and score and things like that. So we'll see how effective he is coming off the injury. But the big player to watch for, Joey, for the Miami Hurricanes is Isaiah Wong, sophomore guard, 17.5 points a game. They expected him to be a scoring threat this year, had a really strong end of last season. But he's had to take on that extra role because Likes has been down, McGusty's been in and out. So, and the thing with Isaiah, when he's going at his best, he's taking guys off the dribble. He's penetrating to the basket. He likes to go right, and he draws fouls and hits free throws at a good rate. That's at him at his best. If he's able to sprinkle in some 3-pointers, it makes him even more dangerous. But he's very aggressive. He's one of those guys that, for a talented player on offense, he's always playing with that effort and energy, and just really going hard. And you like your talented players to be, to have that extra energy, and he definitely has that. I asked him today about that, just about the attention he's getting from defenses. And he definitely says that he's feeling it because he's been putting up numbers and things like that. So he's kind of adjusting. You saw that against Syracuse. He didn't take a shot, I think, in the first 8 or 9 minutes, just kind of feeling it out. But he, had a good second half. But he's the one to watch, and that's where it starts. And if Notre Dame is going to win the game, I think they've got to slow down Wong. Chris Likes his replacement as Harlan Beverly, is 6'4", 6'5" guard, not a natural point guard. He's a guy that kind of does everything, rebounds, assists, steals, but his offensive efficiency numbers are not very good. Shooting numbers, not just from three, but his field goal percent, his free throw percent is very low. It's a huge drop off, in my opinion, although Beverly does give you more size. But that's the biggest thing to watch for when Likes is out. You got McGusty, you got freshman Earl Timberlake, nice left handed guy, strong to the basket. And then also, kind of moving on off that with the power forward position, I think that's a big thing because of what Notre Dame is bringing to the table. Anthony Walker is athletic at 6'8". He makes 2-pointers at a high rate, and he shoots threes terribly this season. Conversely, their other options, Matt Cross, a freshman who's more efficient from three, but not nearly the athlete that Walker is. So they've got to mix that up. And actually, just kind of news, going back to the news with Larinaga, he actually said today that they're exploring options of going to a four-guard lineup to start off the game against Notre Dame. And then at center, they got Nysier Brooks, but Brooks has really struggled on those stretch fours and fives. So that could limit his minutes because he's just that true 7-footer, shot blocker, rebounder type. But if he's not effective on defense, can't get out to the three-point line to guard the three, then his minutes will be reduced.
For sure. Definitely interesting. You bring up the four-guard lineup. Notre Dame's been really successful with that. So I think both teams could kind of get going offensively with that if that were the case. So that should be something to monitor heading into the game. We talked about how Miami has played, I think, twice since Notre Dame's last game. Once against Louisville where Isaiah Wong went off, but then their last game against Syracuse just got manhandled. Just I think they lost by like 26, 27, something like that. Was it? I know Mike Bray likes to talk about how if they really struggle with something, that's kind of the book on them. Do you think the book on Miami is kind of that they can't really beat a 2-3 zone much, or do you think it was just a rough shooting night?
I think it's both, and it's also not a one-game sample size, in my opinion. They've struggled against the zone all year long, even going back early on in the season. And Larinaga actually mentioned these numbers from his scouting department that they're shooting 32%. They're shooting 52% from two, whether it's against man or zone, but it's 32% against man from three, and down to 20% against the three or against the zone from three. So anyways, those numbers certainly drop off. I think Miami struggled against the zone. And, right now, Larinaga, there's no secret. Miami is struggling against the zone, and he's making it known. And anybody that flips on the film will know that. And Coach Bray, as you know, does a great job of adjusting to other teams. And Larinaga, although he expects Coach Bray to run that man-to-man defense, he said he's certainly able to switch it up and go zone or go different things. So I think they're expecting at least some zone because they've struggled so much against it, and it only makes sense. So we will see. It was a blowout game. They really struggled on both ends. He did say, Coach Larinaga said that they ran this 1-3-1 zone offense against a 2-3 zone, which they typically don't do, but they actually found some success with it. And it was actually the only offense they averaged over a point of possession. So maybe watch for that. They might be able to use that as a wrinkle, depending on what kind of defense Notre Dame does throw out there.
For sure. Really interesting that they shoot worse from three against the zone rather than man. I don't think I've really heard much of that before. But you're right about Bray. He pretty much won us the Kentucky game by dropping in the 1-3-1 and almost won us the UNC game with the 2-3. So that's definitely something I could see him doing, and hopefully Miami keeps up those shooting numbers for my sake, maybe not for your sake. But while we're on the topic of scheme, can you kind of tell us what Miami likes to do?
Yeah, the biggest thing with Miami on defense, they like to run a man-to-man defense. They like to man up. They really like the idea of being able to switch everything on pick and rolls. However, like I said, they've struggled with shooters that, big guys that can shoot. So, but they do like they like the idea of it. I know when they've went small, they've actually had Timberlake, who's about 6'5", 6'6". There was a time earlier this year that they went really small, and he was the 5-man. And at that point, you definitely can switch everything. So it will be interesting. And like you said, that if Notre Dame is going with 4 guards, if they do mix in another guy, it could just be very interesting to see how the matchups, how they go for both teams. So that's a big thing. If Miami runs a secondary defense, it might be that 2-3 zone. They've showed it a little bit this year. At the beginning of the year, they talked a little bit about picking up full court a little bit more, but because of their numbers, their depth with their injuries, we've just not seen that very often. So I'd be surprised if they did that in this game, but it could be something to maybe keep in mind. But as far as on offense, the big thing with Miami is their guards. That's where they like to get the ball. They like to have guys move with the ball. With Isaiah Wong, he gets a lot of his shots off the dribble. So anything off of screens, ball screens like that. So that helps Wong. And when they're going right, again, ideally they like to drive to the lane and then kick out for three, but they're just not making the shots. But I still think, they like the percentages they're shooting from two. I still think they're going to try to shoot threes when they can, even though those numbers aren't great. And they actually said like Walker, I think, is close to 2 for 25, somewhere in that range. And they've actually said that they're not telling him not to shoot it, but they're just showing him that he's more effective from two. But I still think they're going to try to shoot threes. And some of the things that's interesting with that 3-point shooting is the numbers they're shooting this year. Well, none of these guys were necessarily great shooters. They're still below their career averages, their career mark. So maybe there is something to be said about, maybe they will eventually get some things going. So we will definitely see, because it's certainly been a huge issue this year for sure.
Definitely. So it's interesting that they haven't really picked up full court. Notre Dame's really struggled with that. I kind of noticed that. I was just looking at through their roster a little bit. Isaiah Wong and McGusty are two guys who really athletic and lanky. So I think that could definitely create some issues for Notre Dame. But wanted to ask, I can't really find it on the stat sheet, but are they a team that forced a lot of turnovers just because of that kind of length and athleticism with Walker down low?
Yeah, it's not a huge thing. Actually, with the turnovers, the biggest thing that comes up with it is Miami on offense typically has had too many turnovers. So that's kind of it, whether it feels like they've lost the turnover battle in a sense. You don't hear them, creating a bunch of turnovers. But one thing that they do well is block shots. And not only, with with Nasir Brooks at center, but their guards can block shots. So that's something to watch for, because they've actually done really well at that. So something to look for. Wong and Beverly are good at that for guards, and they rebound their position really well. So those are two good things, two positives that Miami definitely has going for them. And then Anthony Walker, with his length, he's certainly someone that can block shots as well.
Definitely. I just looked up the stats. You're right. Miami averaging 4 more turnovers a game than Notre Dame, and Notre Dame hasn't been particularly good in that department either. So something to monitor there also. And I'm sure Coach Bray would not be too happy with Earl Timberlake's 2.4 assists to 3.3 turnover ratio. That's his favorite stat, which I'm sure all Notre Dame fans know. But we touched on a little bit of this, but what do you think their biggest strengths and weaknesses as a team?
I think, again, when they're going well, I think they're one of their biggest strengths, again, with Isaiah Wong, his ability to score. When Cameron McGusty is healthy, he can score at a high clip as well and shoot threes. They do have athleticism. In that sense, they've got some nice sized guards. Once again, Beverly, although he's sometimes inefficient as an offensive player, he can penetrate. He can finish at the rim a little bit. So, and I think you saw that against Louisville. And as bad as the Syracuse game was, Larinaga, the players, there's a lot of hope that if they could just play like they did against Louisville, and Miami's played better at home. Again, the crowds are not a factor this year, but Miami's played better at home. So they're hoping that they can kind of get that going. So those are the kind of things that they're looking for. If Nasir Brooks can rebound, stay out of foul trouble, and they will go to him. I mentioned earlier about the 3-point shooting and things like that, but Nasir Brooks sometimes will be employed on the horns action plays to try to get him some low post touches. So, there is potential for him to score some buckets, but it seems like if he gets 2 or 3 buckets, then they kind of go away from him for a while. So their strength, that they still have some athletic guys that can make plays on both ends. They play hard. Again, their struggles have been glaring. But on the flip side, yes, they've had some injuries. If you look at it, okay, they're 2-6 in the ACC, but if a lot of close games in there, maybe you look at it like they could have done a few things a little bit better and could have won those. Maybe they're not as far off as it seems, but you know how it is. You are what your record says you are, and you're 6-7 overall, so that's just what it is. So they're definitely gonna have to play better and get back to those strengths. And again, when Isaiah Wong is playing at a high level, it makes a lot of guys. It kind of eases the pressure off of them as well.
Gotcha. So I got two more questions for you. Uh, so what do you think Miami has to do to beat Notre Dame? I think we can maybe both agree that Miami kind of has the talent advantage in this game and probably athleticism too. But what do you think they have to do to beat Notre Dame?
Well, and again, I think with Prentice Hub, I think that there's definitely some matchup stuff that Miami needs to take advantage of with their guards. That they can't let him have a comfortable day. And I think if you're able to rotate different guys there, I think they can. That's going to be the plan, that they're going to try to make him a little uncomfortable. You cannot let him have a good day, and that's easier said than done because Miami has allowed guards. Boston College, they had the big shooting night. Their guards had a bunch of points. Syracuse had a bunch of points from their guards. So it's not been a thing where they just definitely lock it down. But I think, that's a key for Miami. Don't let Prentice, feel comfortable on both ends of the court, but, whether he's passing the ball or scoring, you definitely want to keep him in mind. I think for Miami to win the game, they've got to find a way to shoot the ball from the outside. If they do that, I think Wong will be able to get to the basket and score. He's got that natural scorer's mentality that you like as a team. And I think if you're able to get, some points, if McGusty or Elijah Alani is another guy that I didn't mention much, but he actually provided secondary support in that last game. Beverly can make some shots. Earl Timberlake is a guy that, he's getting back healthy after missing one game there last week. So I think, maybe you're looking at some guys that can really get to their scoring. And I think that'll be the thing to watch for. For Miami to win, they're going to need to score points. But definitely if it gets tight or depending on how the second half goes, Miami's been in these close games, so they're going to have to find a way to close the door like they did against Louisville.
Definitely. Now that Chris Lakes is out, it's probably going to be harder for Prentice to get going offensively against taller, lankier defenders and guys who he hasn't been high school teammates with. So that's something that could be a disadvantage, even though Lakes is so good in other areas. But before I let you go, I know predictions can get you in trouble sometimes, but do you have a prediction or kind of a range for this game?
I think it goes back to what I was saying about Miami playing better at home. They've been in close games, and it's tough with both of these teams to say one of these two teams is going to play really well because they've had their struggles all year long. But I do think Miami has the advantage with their guards. They have Isaiah Wong, who's been scoring. They're not that far off from what they did against Louisville, and there are a lot of positive signs. They are getting guys healthy. I think they've got a little bit more scoring than Notre Dame, so I would give them the advantage. But once again, look, Miami's really struggled against the zone and shooting the ball. If that continues, Coach Bray is going to have his guys with confidence, and they could really make things difficult for Miami. You definitely could see that. It's Miami's a team that's lacks an identity, and at this point in the season, right at this midway point, here in late January, you don't like that. You like teams that have their identity and know what they are, and know what they want to do. So I think that there's a little bit of that going on with Miami, but again, with Isaiah Wong, he really helps out. He really helps erase some of the issues, but other guys got to step up. So I do think that will happen, but we'll see how it goes because, like I said, both teams have struggled, and it's hard to really say either of these two teams is definitely going to come out firing.
Can't blame you for giving Miami a bit of an edge there. I mean, I think I'd say like 80-90% of the people we've had on for other games have picked their team and not Notre Dame for good reason. So I can definitely not blame you, but thank you for coming on. That's all I have for you. And all right, so now that we've heard about Miami a little bit, let's kind of go to what Bray said because Larinaga, we heard some of his comments a couple minutes ago. So here's what Coach Bray had to say in his presser today, which is Friday, heading into the game.
Well, last time they played in their building, they beat Louisville. They weren't very good up at Syracuse the other night. But an athletic group that's going to, I'm talking about our stances. They're going to drive at our heart and our lane and be up on our backboard. And, that's an area where we have not been as good as we need to be. And so, it's a great, challenge for us. I mean, if we could put a 2-game win streak together in this league, given where we are, would be, a heck of a thing. But Miami's driving at you up on the backboard stuff, it will be, that'll be the rubber hitting the road for us. Can we handle it?
Right.
All right, so now we've heard from Coach Bray and Jim Larinaga. I guess I'll go into the keys to the game. One, rebound. Miami's really physical down low. They don't have a whole lot of height down there. 6'8", their power forward is, so it's gonna be they're gonna have a height advantage. But what has a height advantage done for Notre Dame recently down low with Leshevsky and Durham, who haven't been great rebounders all year? I could see this being sort of like the UNC game just because of the physicality they have down low. Two, I'm going to say come out hot. Miami just got blown out by Syracuse. If you let them rebound quickly, then we're not in great shape. I think if Notre Dame can come out hot, I don't know if Miami can really break out of their funk if we come out hot, get a big lead. But as we've seen, Notre Dame has blown lead and lead and lead again and again and again this year. So I wouldn't say I'm super optimistic, but let's hope that they can make something happen. And if they can come out and shoot well and kind of slow Miami's three-point shooting with that zone, I think Bray could drop into a 1-3-1, 2-3 combination of the two. I think that can really help. And I really hope that that is what happens, kind of segueing into my third key. Let's say make Harlan Beverly, Cam McGusty, and Isaiah Wong kind of uncomfortable. I think the way to do that is dropping into zones. They haven't been good in zones. I think in basketball, a lot of shooting slumps are just as much mental as physical. So I think they're gonna have a tough time breaking out of a slump shooting against zones. So that's interesting. And some things I have to watch for is how much does Notre Dame drop into the zone, and does Miami beat the zone? Because I think if Miami can't beat Notre Dame's zone, it's going to be a game like Kentucky or UNC where they're going to struggle to score all game long. And Notre Dame should win this game if that's the case, but they lost to UNC, and UNC could barely beat their zone. So that's what I have. And then two, how Notre Dame uses Nate Leshevsky on switches. Bray was talking about in his presser how they've kind of had a game plan, or teams have been game planning against Leshevsky when they switch. Guys are closing out on him, making it harder for him to shoot threes. But he's evolved and become more of a post threat. So I think that's something to look for, is if Leshevsky backs guys down in the post on the switches, maybe a guy like Cam McGusty or Isaiah Wong if he switches. So that's interesting. And then three, I'm going to say how much playing time Matt Zona gets is something I'm really interested to see, because, I mean, I think Miami's more athletic down low than Matt Zona. I don't know if he can handle that. But they're going to need physicality down there. They're going to need his size. He's going to help on the boards if he goes in, and Miami's switching on everything. So if Zona can shoot, then we're in good shape. I think he could have a nice little game if he ends up playing kind of like he did against UNC. Maybe he won't be scoring a whole lot, but if he can get some playing time, crash the boards a little bit, just help out with the physicality down low, I think we'll be better for it. And then four, do they play with intensity? Obviously, they're always trying, but it seems like every time they have a chance to turn the season around, it seems like they come out flat or they blow a lead. So I just want to see them play with intensity for 40 minutes. If they lose by 3 or 4 or 5, but they're playing hard the whole game and shots just aren't falling, then I'm okay with that. But if they blow a lead, that's where this team is falling apart over and over again. And that's not what I'm looking forward to. So that's my things to watch for. Matchup to watch is McGusty and Wong versus Notre Dame's wings. I think McGusty and Wong are better creators off the dribble. They're probably more athletic too, and I think lankier, so better defenders than maybe all Notre Dame's wings except for Cormac Ryan. Cormac Ryan's probably close. I think they might still be better though. So that's going to be something to watch for. I think that's where Notre Dame's a bit outmatched outside of kind of physicality. I think Notre Dame's kind of outmatched on the wing with McGusty and Wong. So that's definitely something I'm looking for. If this game turns into a big blowout, I think it's going to be because McGusty and Wong are having really good games, and Wirtz, Cormac, and Dane haven't been able to get it going midway through the game. So that's what I'm going to say for that. My leading scorer are going to be Nate Leshevsky. I mean, they're going to switch on screens. He's going to get some better matchups, even if it's not a Chris Likes switch on a screen. Which was going to be possible if he did play. So that's that. And then Prentice Hub was also kind of in my consideration just because he's had good games against Miami in the past, but that's partly due to Chris Likes being guarding him for extended periods of time, in my opinion. But now they got lanky wings, guys who are going to guard Hub really well. So I think they're going to try to feed Leshevsky this game, and the offense is really going to flow through him. So he's going to be my leading scorer. And then prediction, I'm going to go Miami by 5-7. Definitely not happy to say that, but it's just really hard for me to predict Notre Dame wins at this point. If they win this game, I'll be a little more confident going into Virginia Tech. And I think this is one of their biggest games of the year, coming off a win. We know Boston College can't really pressure the guards. They can't really get to the basket, all things that has given Notre Dame issues this year. So I think that's something huge to watch for. If Boston College was a team like Miami, I don't think Notre Dame shoots the ball as well as they did. I don't think they have 30 minutes of turnover-free basketball. So hopefully Notre Dame can build on that game. I know they've been practicing way harder than they have recently, just really getting after it. So hopefully they're ready for a team like Miami. But that's what I got to say. Hopefully they prove me wrong, but I think my record with predictions is really good this year. It's only bad because I picked a couple Notre Dame wins when they lost. So I was a little too optimistic then. Now, if they don't win this game, it's really hard for me to be optimistic. So that's all I got for you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll probably have a Virginia Tech preview on Tuesday night. So tune into that. Thank you guys for watching. And thank you if you're a Miami fan, if you're still here. So go Irish. Talk to you guys later. Peace.